This is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
Hello and welcome into another edition of Fremont. I am John Kurtz, joined by Derek Young from K-State Online, Cole Manbeck, former beat writer for the Manhattan Mercury. We are here talking K-State and NC State, the Pop-Tarts Bowl. Get your Pop-Tarts ready, everybody. K-State did, in fact, make it to the Pop-Tarts Bowl. Looked like it might be Notre Dame there for a minute, but the ACC, in all of its majesty, after having Florida State left out of the playoff, did not want Notre Dame to go to one of the top three bowls that they have. So, unfortunately, they get shipped to the Sun Bowl to play Oregon State, and K-State will play NC State. Now, don't mean that as a shot to the Wolfpack, but we've got plenty of time to discuss all of that. Speaking of shots, get a shot of 360 Vodka or Ben Holiday Bottled and Bond Bourbon from our friends at Holiday Distillery. Great K-State folks who support the pod. Make sure that you get out and support them. Lots of compliments that we hear all the time about Ben Holiday Bottled and Bond Bourbon. And the 360 Vodka is great too. So you've got a choice either way there for bowl season. Make sure that you have a bunch for this game coming up on December 28th to get ready to watch that. Or K-State Hoops. We've got Villanova coming up tomorrow. K-State Villanova at Bramlage. So if you're staying at home, watching on the couch, make sure that you have 360 Vodka or Ben Holiday Bottled and Bond Bourbon. All right, Cole and I did a little reaction on the Patreon page. So if you do want extended K-State and NC State talk and Pop-Tarts Bowl talk and everything going on with the football program, you can go to patreon.com/3ma. If you want to join, it is $5 a month for extra bonus content. We're updating it multiple times a week, and also drop some inside information on the Discord server that you can become a part of there. So we appreciate everybody who does support us there, patreon.com/3ma. But we did not have DY to react to this, so you'll get the floor first, Derek. But K-State will play 9-3 NC State, a team that finished the year hot, a team that has a very good defense and a pretty limited offense. Your thoughts on the draw here, both K-State getting the Pop-Tarts Bowl, going to Florida for the first time for a bowl game, and then also drawing NC State as the opponent?
Well, I'm happy for the fans and the players because I think Pop-Tarts Bowl provides something that they haven't gotten before. It's not like you're going to the Texas Bowl where you've been many times, or the Liberty Bowl where you were in year one under Chris Kleiman and probably just don't want to go to. And then obviously you don't want to fall below those bowls. And the Alamo Bowl wasn't on the pecking order of what you could go to after, losing to Iowa State and, of course, Oklahoma falling out in year 6. The Sooners were always going to get the Alamo Bowl. So I think this is the best case scenario for what transpired. I almost, in a way, kind of feel for Oklahoma State. They played in the Big 12 championship and fell all the way to the Texas Bowl and nearly fell to the Liberty Bowl. So they almost got the host the most. I don't think they got host. In terms of the draw, NC State's probably, it's. I think Notre Dame would have been the more ideal situation just because it really puts a spotlight on your game because of what their brand has to offer, and it can really engage your own roster and as well, and kind of maybe create more buy-in just because of the aura of who the Fighting Irish are, and and people will like this. I'd like bowl results, win or lose. I just think that's starting to become pretty, it doesn't matter as much with every year. It becomes more of an exhibition. It's more about getting your young guys ready almost, as long as you're not playing it in a very consequential bowl game, like similar to Kansas State last year, right? They played in what to them was a consequential bowl game. They're playing Alabama in the Sugar Bowl, so everyone wanted to be there, and I think it helped keep guys out of the transfer portal, helped keep guys from opting out. That's tough. NC State probably doesn't do that in the same manner that Notre Dame does. But at the same time, while Notre Dame was the best opponent, I think NC State still, I guess it's a fresh new face to play. So that's cool for fans. But you know what? I don't think you're going to get a ton of credit, even though they're, number 16 in the country, I think, in the college football playoff. You're not going to get a ton of credit nationally, or at least a lot of attention nationally for beating a team like NC State. It's not Clemson, it's not Miami, it's not Notre Dame, and they're tough. A very average offense. I would say that's always been kind of offensively challenged under Dave Doran, but that team can play some really tough defense. So in a way, maybe you're glad that you drew them in that way, because it's a nice first test for Avery Johnson. And if they pass that test, that's a hell of a springboard into next season.
They're third in takeaways per game at 2.1 and turnovers forced per game. They're sixth at interception percentage, picking off opponents' passes on 4.4% of their passing attempts. So it is going to be quite the challenge for Avery Johnson. I believe they're 19th in Brian Freeman's FEI defensive ratings. They'll be the second highest ranked defensive team that K-State will have played, behind only Texas. So really good defense, top 20 in points per drive allowed as well. I think third best defense in points per drive allowed, behind Troy and Texas, that K-State will have faced. So it'll be a really big challenge for K-State, and some of the young guys are going to be playing, and Avery Johnson. But like you said, DY, they're 77th in Brian Freeman's FEI offensive ratings, which will be the second worst offense K-State will have played, behind only Baylor this season. So not counting SEMO in the FCS level, but second worst FBS opponent. So it'll be, you look at that, K-State's biggest struggles of late has been, stopping the run, linebackers, explosive plays. I think it was KSU_fan, Jimmy, that said that NC State is 109th in explosiveness. DY, is that right?
Yeah, they basically have the same profile as Iowa State, except Iowa State was top 10 in explosiveness this year, and NC State's not even in the top 100.
Yeah, so, you look at things that have given K-State fits of late. It's the run defense. Well, NC State averages 4 yards per carry. It's fine, but their leading rusher is their quarterback, Brennan Armstrong, at 544 yards. They don't have a running back that's over 250 yards.
Yeah, the number 2 leading rusher on their team is a wide receiver.
Yeah, exactly. Kevin Concepcion, who's the ACC Rookie of the Year, is the second leading rusher, and he's a receiver, had 764 yards receiving. I think he's got like 290 yards rushing. This year he's a really good player. They use him all over, but they don't have a lot of explosive weapons. So, that's kind of like offense, defense, but from an overall general standpoint, to what John and you had brought up, it's not the sexy name that Notre Dame is. I think we all got excited about that possibility. It was kind of a toying with your emotions type situation, because we all anticipated NC State for like a week or two. They've been projected there forever. But then with the results of the conference championships, and then Brett Murphy's projection that Notre Dame to the Pop-Tarts Bowl on Sunday morning, and usually he's pretty accurate with those things. And it did seem like the Pop-Tarts Bowl wanted them, and things might fall into place. It's unfortunate that the ACC wouldn't allow them to be selected, because the ACC allowed them to be selected in 2019 to the same bowl, which was the Camping World Bowl.
Yeah, the only reason it didn't is because Florida State got robbed. So they wanted an actual ACC team in that bowl. So it's funny that the dominoes that can fall in bowl scenarios to cause all of that, because Florida State missing out on the playoff basically did that. And the only reason why Notre Dame became an option too is because Georgia was going to fall out of the SEC. It's weird how
but to your point, North Carolina State's a really good team. Dave Doran's a really good coach. They've won 8 or more games in 6 of their last 7 seasons. They've won 9 or more games in 4 of their last 7 seasons. Right? Yeah, they're ranked 18th in the college football playoff poll. Notre Dame's 16th. They're basically right there. But yet, if you win, you're right. Like, they probably won't get quite the same credit. Now, you do win this game, you're probably going to finish in the top 25 of the AP. I use the playoff poll as the finale.
What I would say is we probably overrate getting credit for bowl games anymore, because that was going to be probably a very modified Notre Dame roster that people were going to be like, okay, you played Notre Dame when they were chopped up, just like when we played LSU when they were chopped up. So I think you probably get more people to watch your game, but I don't know I don't think winning a Pop-Tarts Bowl means anything nationally, regardless of who the opponent is, even if it's Notre Dame. That might just mean more to your own roster, I guess.
I do think this is going to sound absolutely ridiculous. First of all, I agree with you that, bowl game, anyone's going to find the narrative to discredit a bowl win these days because of how meaningless they are, how many guys are opting out, how different the rosters are. But if you are going to play in a bowl game, one that has a really good marketing campaign that got a lot of people talking on social media with the Pop-Tarts thing and the edible mascot and all that, you might actually have extra eyeballs on the game just because of the novelty of the sponsor that everybody really loves. And I got to hand it to them. I've been craving Pop-Tarts. Like, I haven't thought about Pop-Tarts in like a decade. I don't know the last time I ate a freaking Pop-Tart, but all of a sudden I'm thinking about Pop-Tarts because of the Pop-Tart Bowl. So,
what's your favorite
the advertising works. What's that?
You have a favorite Pop-Tart? Coach Kleiman was asked that on the press conference.
Easy.
He did chocolate fudge.
Easy. Not chocolate fudge at all. I love you, Coach Kleiman, but that's not a great choice in my opinion. I would go frosted brown sugar cinnamon. I think that's far and away the best Pop-Tart that there is. And frankly, any other opinion is just invalid. So go ahead.
I have a top two. It's that one and frosted strawberry, I think.
Cole?
I haven't had a Pop-Tart in a decade or more.
I haven't either.
I can't remember what I would have even liked, honestly. So
Cole, don't your kids? You don't buy Pop-Tarts for your kids?
We preach healthy in this family. They like mini pancakes, like cereal, etc. They're pretty vanilla. I don't think we have bought Pop-Tarts for the kids, but in support of the Pop-Tarts Bowl, if Kansas State wins, we'll buy them some Pop-Tarts.
Oh, Kansas State wins. You should buy Brody some Pop-Tarts now. I'm about to buy Brody some Pop-Tarts. If you want, let's give Brody some Pop-Tarts, man.
You gonna bring him some Pop-Tarts for the drive to Manhattan tomorrow night when he's going with us to the basketball game?
Perfect. Yes, I will go buy him some Pop-Tarts. Maybe I'll even get him the wild berry ones because they're purple.
Yeah.
So, and those are actually pretty good. Those might be my number two favorite Pop-Tart. I mean, there is something to that, right? Like in bowl season, like people pay, like the Duke's Mayo Bowl has turned into such a thing. I feel like more people watch the Mayo Bowl because they're interested in I mean, it is, but like there is a little. So I don't know. Hopefully you play well because Cole was trying out the stat about how many people watched the Iowa State game, and unfortunately, a bunch of people watched that game, a bunch of people watched the Oklahoma State game, and those were the two worst performances you had of the year. A lot of people watched Big Noon with Texas too, and at least that was a decent performance. But hopefully, if that number is going to be pretty good, that you perform better. Is it on main ESPN or is it on ESPN2?
I think it's on main ESPN. I think I saw main ESPN. So, yeah. And man, did Iowa State fans grasp onto that tweet about the TV ratings. You thought they'd going to hang a banner over that. So
they might. Well, actually, it's a 4:45 Central Time PM kick. A little weird, and it's on is that a Thursday, December 20th?
Thursday. Yeah.
I think it's one of 4 non-New Year's Six ranked matchups out of all the bowls. So you got. And I mean, let's be honest here, Tennessee, Iowa, and the Citrus Bowl, no one's watching that. It's a ranked matchup, but I don't think anyone's going to watch that. I mean, other than those fan bases. So it'll be one of the. Yeah. You win. The biggest thing for this game is, I mean, obviously, you want to win, but, you want to watch Avery Johnson and this offense look good, and that'll kind of springboard into the 2024 season and feel good heading into there. After 30 days of prep time for Avery Johnson and some of these young guys, see what they look like and see what the full playbook looks like.
You know what else feels good, Cole? Some home field apparel. Whether you want to wear K-State gear, whether you want to wear University of Hawaii Rainbow Warriors gear like DY, you can do it all. They've got you covered. Whether you want 40 plus K-State items or 100 plus other teams out there, home field apparel, retro gear, retro logos. It's what's in. It's what the kids are wearing. We're trying to help you out, make you cooler. And we're so nice that we'll even give you 15% off your first order. 3Mon23 is the promo code at homefieldapparel.com to get 15% off your first order. So go hit up our friends at Homefield and be cool like us when you're out at Bramlage Coliseum here through hoops season. We're back in just a moment.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network. Make sure you download our new app. Find it on the App Store or Google Play. Just search KC Sports Network.
All right, are we going to see DY Colin Klein finally let the horse out of the barn, take the shackles off Avery Johnson and let him actually have a full offense to utilize instead of just second and long package against Mizzou, instead of not allowing him to throw the ball when he was coming into the game at Texas? Like I got very frustrated, if you can't tell, with the limitations on Avery Johnson when he was in the game. Now you have to just let him run free, right? Especially because you probably are leery of running him too much.
Yeah, I don't think you have too much of a choice. I think Texas was probably more of a down and distance thing because he kept getting pushed back beyond the sticks deep inside his own territory. Missouri, I didn't necessarily agree with, so I'm on board with you on that one. And Texas Tech, I think, was probably a good mix for the most part. It was still a little run heavy, obviously, because he had 5 rushing touchdowns. But I thought between the red zones or what, I thought they were letting them toss it around a bit. Yeah, there's no other choice here. And you don't really get the genuinely accurate springboard into next season if you don't give them those type of keys for this game.
I guess if you think back to the LSU game, that was a fun one we're calling now. That was Skylar Thompson at quarterback, obviously a veteran, but that was Collins' debut, and we saw a very wide open spread out attack that was a prelude of things to come over the next couple of years. So yeah, I am optimistic about that. And it sounded like we got good news on the backup quarterback front at Chris Kleiman's press conference. He said that he was confident that Jacob Knuth would be available to be the backup, even though there seemed to be an eligibility hang up there. Is that Kleiman just trying to be overly optimistic, or do we think that they legitimately have some intel on that? Do they have to get a waiver to play?
I think you would have to get a waiver, so maybe it's confidence that they'll get a waiver. I don't really have any inside intel on that other than Chris Kleiman kind of issuing a vote of confidence there that Knuth will be available. I think we would have to have a waiver approved by the NCAA for that to be permitted. So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, going back to it, I think they, unlock Avery Johnson here, give him the keys to the car. The only thing I will say is he's got to avoid those freshman mistakes that have kind of caught him before at times this season, where he's getting pushed back clear behind the sticks and deep inside his own territory. Because regardless of who the quarterback is, this Kansas State doesn't really push it in those scenarios. When they're deep inside their own territory, they kind of understand where they're at on the field and they don't want to have to play the field position game there. When then you can mistake after mistake, especially with your quarterbacks that have been turnover prone, you're throwing an interception on your inside of the field. That's what Will Howard did against Texas, right? So, and when you're a freshman, you're more prone to do that. So I think we'll see him have the keys to the car, but he's got to put himself out of harm's way a little bit to allow the coaching staff to give him those keys too.
And we believe they'll have a full offensive line, right, DY? Don't anticipate.
Yeah, I haven't anticipated anything. I have questions whether or not Ben Sinnott plays, but otherwise I would anticipate everyone else playing besides, the guys that have already entered the portal like Will Howard, Trayshawn Ward.
I was going to say, because Coach Kleiman said that he anticipates most guys playing, right, that haven't already. Yeah.
And I got asked around, about Cooper Beebe, and they're like, I don't think Cooper Beebe has it in him to ever skip a game. So, and obviously the senior offensive line, depending on what they want to do, they need this game. You could say, KT Levison's going to NFL, he could opt out. Well, KT Levison needs this game as a spotlight too, to maybe improve his draft position. So some of these guys that we're talking about too, it doesn't make sense to opt out even from that standpoint. So the only one I could see maybe is Ben Sinnott. I don't know what his decision is going to be. Obviously, he's very close with Will Howard. He's already accepted an invitation to the Senior Bowl. What's that look like? I don't know. And you got to think, even if he were to make that decision, maybe that's a better one for Kansas State. Obviously, Ben Sinnott gives them a better chance to win, but it also means more snaps for Garrett Oakley.
Yeah, I'm a tad surprised that Sinnott hasn't announced that he's entering the draft or anything yet. So I would expect, that to come this week if it's going to come. So.
And I would say I've heard, and I don't know if I heard it from one of you, but there's talk about Jatavian Sanders in Texas potentially returning to school another season, and if so, that just probably accelerates the draft stock of Ben Sinnott anyway.
He's probably the number 2 tight end in the draft behind Brock Bowers. Now, I actually was just going through Mel Kiper and the ESPN guys' draft stock list. They have him as the number 2, H-back in the draft, which they had moved him off tight end. But I was doing that while I had pulled together all my research on Notre Dame and had Audric Estime. Mel Kiper had Audric Estime, the running back from Notre Dame, as the number 2 draft eligible running back to come out. And I was preparing fully for Notre Dame at that point. So I had to scrap all those notes and start pulling together North Carolina State content, guys, which I should have already been.
I will say that a pretty good source here, that Kansas State had started to do some work on an opponent just trying to anticipate one and maybe get a head start on him, and it was NC State. So they kind of played that right.
Yeah. Well, that was the obvious prediction there for a while. Yeah. And on the Senate and BB front, if we're going by the graphic that the athletic department put out for the bowl game, it had like 5 or 6 different players there. Cooper Beebe was one of them, and Ben Sinnott was not one of them. So I think that probably tells you what you need to know about where everybody expects those decisions to be headed going into the bowl game, which I think is fine. Let's see basically as close as you're going to get right now to what next year's offense is going to be with Avery Johnson. Let it ride, and wish Ben Sinnott certainly the best. Anything else? The transfer portal's opening up today officially. It was open for grad transfers before. We've seen some big names today. Kyle McCord at Ohio State, Dylan Gabriel at Oklahoma have hopped into the portal. What more are we expecting that the K-State fans have not already seen out there? I guess the headliners so far have been Will Howard, Trayshawn Ward, and Will Lee that have hit the portal. Do we expect any other significant names?
And Will Howard and Trayshawn Ward were already in because they were graduate transfers. Will Lee officially in today. Just like Jake Rubley, I don't think it was a graduate transfer, so he's someone that's probably officially in today as well. A few other guys that were playing not very much or were kind of buried on the depth chart also already in, right? Let's see if I can...
Jordan Wright.
Jordan Wright. Jordan Perry was another one. Probably shouldn't have even tried this because now I'm drawing blanks as well. So, anyways, I don't think that they've been burned by the transfer portal as much as, maybe the average fan is watching all these and starting to panic because Kansas State, they feel very good about what's happened. They knew the Will Howard situation, how that was going to unfold. They were very at peace with that. Trayshawn Ward, they were very at peace with that one. They like what he did for them, but they thought that they could get it in a different way. It didn't really have to push the needle to have him come back either. The Will Lee one, probably from a performance standpoint, would probably impact you the most, but they were still content with that one unfolding the way that it did, just because, so I'll just put it this way. They're very attentive to the idea of having the right guys in the locker room. That's probably the department where the Will Lee one went. In terms of any other surprises, not hearing anything in terms of transfer portal. It's more, I think, guys choosing to use a COVID year or not, more or less. Austin Moore's one, obviously. At this point, I think he's coming back. Had that. A couple sources feel really confident on that front in the last 48 hours. Brendan Mott. Now, I guess this could be a portal guy, but I think he's just wants to give it a pro try at this point, but I don't expect him back. I think that one is done and probably going the other way. And then Nate Matlack, that could be a portal one. That's 50-50 at this point from what I hear still. A guy that's very, very torn. On the surface, people will probably say, we could probably stomach that one, but just for depth purposes, you don't want to lose this many defensive linemen at once. I think you'd like to have Matlack back.
You lose Matlack, you don't have any returning experience at defensive end. I mean, Cody Stufflebean's done with football, it sounds like. Brendan Mott likely moving on. Khalid Duke moving on. That's your...
You just need an older guy in the room, and that's why you would love to have Nate Matlack. And heck, I know that his concern is fit in the 3-man game because he's a little lighter, obviously, and he was recruited to play the 4-man. But, I mean, his sack numbers were still kind of top 10, top 12 in the Big 12. So that's a guy you'd still like to have back. I will say, Kansas State really likes their freshmen, though, and Chidi Obiizer, Jordan Allen. I've even heard some good things about Ryan Davis in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah. I mean, they definitely have talent, youthful talent at defensive end, but you certainly want some experience to go along with that, which I would expect. Even if they retain Matlack, I mean, I would anticipate they try to get a transfer D end in the portal just to have another veteran guy. Now, those guys are a little more expensive and harder to land.
We'll see. It'll come down to, because I think you're going to have a position switch that's going to help out the D end room as well, and it's not the one you probably people would just latch on to thinking Tobias and Sami. Maybe that one happens too. But I think the way that Javon Banks' body has happened, I think he's going to play DN next year.
So do you need to go get another? Well, I guess you got Asher Thomas. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name.
They like
wow.
They need Alalio. Obviously, he's going to be here, and they like Uso's coming back. They still will probably chase another traits for nose guard. But DN-wise, just maybe pushing Javon Banks there could help I was actually going to use it as an inside feature on the site, but we got onto it here. But the problem there was they thought he was heavy enough to play D tackle at the beginning of the year, and he was. He was, I think, 285, which maybe you want a little heavier in this scheme, but that was good enough, and he was really doing well at the beginning of the season at 285. But he wasn't able to keep that weight on the whole season. By the end of the season, he was down to 265.
So it was more.
He lost 20 pounds during the year.
Wow. So he's actually more of your prototypical three-man front D end. I mean, he's the type of body that's the type of body you'd be looking for.
But you understood the desire to maybe have him help you with nose guard. You just couldn't keep the weight on during the season.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
And for fans listening, keeping weight on during the season is the hardest thing for an athlete to do.
Yeah, and you said, I mean, you and I had heard 2-3 weeks ago Uso was likely coming back. Have we confirmed that then? You said he's coming back? Or is that just...
I'm still under that working assumption. I think they would be probably in more panic mode at nose guard if he wasn't.
Yeah.
Is he going to be healthy for the bowl game?
I heard he was.
Man, how about Chris Kleiman saying that he was potentially going to play in the Iowa State game, and then he comes out for senior day announcement and he's like on like a crutch. I was like, how was he even, like, he had quite the limp. So I do anticipate him for the bowl game. It just seems like the injury was maybe a little worse than Chris Kleiman had indicated. So
yeah, little gamesmanship, I suppose.
Could have used it.
Clones definitely were not ready for K-State's run defense, so it worked. It worked well. Any last football nuggets here, boys, before we head out and record a basketball episode?
I was told that they're very excited to play their young guys in this bowl game. And it's not just Avery, right? I think you're going to see more Trey Spivey than you have so far this year. I think you're going to see a good amount of Joe Jackson, from what I was told. And even in the corner room, obviously you've been hit there a little bit, and they're okay with that because they wanted these live game reps. Now it could get ugly, right? Because you're playing guys that haven't played a lot of football, so get used to that. Like guys like Kenigel Thomas and maybe even Donovan McIntosh. Really, McIntosh? Look at this, John. We're getting nuggets. So we didn't even know from DY right here, live on set. I didn't know about McIntosh. What about Jordan Allen? You think they give? They're going to play one of the young DNs in this game, right? But here's the thing: you would think that at this point, I imagine Matlack and stuff will be going to play. So it's okay. That's a good point. I hadn't thought about that. Unless something happens differently, those aren't the tights that I would expect. Like, it just seems like they're moving on. So, they're not necessarily... Matlack, if he enters the portal before the game, I guess. Yeah. And then I'm trying to think what other potential young guys... I think you named all of them. The other thing is, though, like, you got Keegan Johnson coming back a receiver, right? It's just, like, helping build that rapport and chemistry between Avery Johnson and a guy like him. Even the veteran guys that are going to be back, building that chemistry in reps and practice on the field. Yeah, you hope that they spread out some of that, but even guys like Jaden Jackson and Phillip Brooks at this point, with no announcement, Phillip Brooks, obviously you would think he's playing the bowl game. Jaden Jackson, I guess, is playing the bowl. You haven't heard anything yet, so you wonder. Most of these guys that came back for a year 6, I would anticipate playing the bowl. They just put their bodies on the line for 6 years, like to come back one more. I don't think they're going to scrap the bowl game. So, but like I said, opting out doesn't really do those guys any good. They're not conserving themselves for much, right? Right. Jaden Jackson's the interesting one because he has a COVID year left. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, a lot of good stuff, man. A lot of good stuff to chew on. I'm excited to see the young guys. That's what makes this bowl game much. To be honest, like I wish Will Howard and Benson and all those guys the best, but I think this is honestly, in the environment that we're in, better case scenario to be productive toward next year and get a chance for everybody to get eyeballs on these guys against a really good NC State defense. Oh, that's the last nugget I'll leave you with. Their defensive coordinator is Tony Gibson, who was at West Virginia for a while and kind of pioneered the 3-man front, the 3-3-5 defense in the Big 12 for a while there. It was always a really tough defense for everybody to go up against. Snyder 2.0 teams definitely struggled against it a time or two. So, familiar face that K-State will be going up against there. But we appreciate Home Field Apparel. Thank you as well to Holiday Distillery. Make sure that you guys go out there and support them. 3MOD23 is the code for 15% off your first order at homefieldapparel.com, and stock up on Ben Holiday Bottled and Bond Bourbon or 360 Vodka. Appreciate the work of Nick Springer behind the scenes. For Derek Young and Cole Manbeck, I am John Kurtz. We will talk to you soon here on 3 Mile.